Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to a new series. I recently started the ACC career mode, but now we have joined an ACC league as well. It's my first ever ACC league that I have joined. I've done online ACC races, the likes of Home of Motorsport and other things, but this is an actual dedicated league, and the first round of the season is here at Silverstone. So I was quite excited. There were a few drivers in the lobby that looked very fast, a lot faster than me. So heading into quali, we had a 59.9 as our best. Then we improved to a 58.6, and I thought we can go a little bit faster. So through turn 1, Cops Corner, 4th gear, you want to get a nice early apex, and then just get on the power as soon as possible. Now this is where it gets fun. Maggots and Beckett's. Flat through the first part of Maggots, a little lift through the second part, and then down to third for the first part of Beckett's. And then just a little dibble on the brakes, and then back on the power, loads of circuit that you can use, and then through Chapel Curve, completely flat on to the hangar straight. So far it's a decent lap. I think my personal best was like a 58.1 after like many hours of practice. Stowe Corner, braking when the curb starts on the left. We kind of missed the apex a little bit, so that's probably a tenth or so gone there, maybe a little bit more. Down Vale and into Club Corner, braking when the apex starts into first gear. Get the car rotated as quickly as possible so that you can get a good run all the way through Club Corner and onto the new start finish straight, which I believe is called Hamilton Straight. We do get a decent run, and now we've got Abbey Curve coming up. It is almost flat, just a little lift. We do miss the apex, so that costs us some time. Then we're going through Farm, totally flat, pull the car over to the left, down into a village, nice and late on the brakes, get the car turned in, pull it back over to the right now for the loop. I don't know how to take the loop. I was just doing it instinctively, trying to get a late apex, so you've got this good run through Aintree and on to the Wellington straight. And I mean, that's pretty much the lap done. It was my final lap, so it was all down to this, down into Brooklands. You can brake very late. You want to get that car slowly turned in. You want to be turning very early into the corner, kind of pointing it into the apex. And then through Luffield, I went for the double apex. I think it's better to hold it tight through the corner. So a little bit of a mistake from myself. And then through Woodcote Corner, completely flat. And that was a 58.4, which, to be honest with, I am pretty happy with. As you can see, there was about 300ths of a second for myself up to P12. So yeah, you know, that little mistake that I made through Stowe Corner, for example, I think that's the difference between me being in P15 or being in P12. So I think with that said, I'm relatively happy with that, because it could have been a lot worse. So for the race, it is a 45-minute race. There is one mandatory pit stop to make and a tyre change as well. And because of that, you might as well fill up with fuel because it doesn't take any extra time. So for this first race of the season, I just wanted to take things pretty chill, pretty calm. I didn't want any opening lap incidents, so I'm not going to go too crazy, or at least that was my plan. You guys can have a think now just how nuts I'm going to be for this start. I don't get my speed right. I should be at about 43.2. And as a result, the guy on our left, Mr. Enket, gets a better start than us. Actually, is that Mr. Enket? That looks like a BMW. It might be... Who is that? That is a Beamer. Is that Arpesh? Maybe Arpesh got a fantastic start. Either way, into Maggots. Just being careful. Cold tyres. Very easy to slide out. We're on the outside now for Beckett's. That's going to give us the inside for the second part of Beckett. I thought I left enough room on my outside, but apparently I didn't. I think I could have left more room. I think he had more track that he could have used on the outside. I would say racing incident, but I will take blame for that. You can still see that it's a 30-second pit window, so that means that we don't have any damage. And then into Stowe, I get a little punt from behind. You can kind of just hear it, feel it, and then I get tapped on the exit of the corner, which actually gave me a lot more damage than I thought it would. We dive hard on the brakes down into Vale, and we regain the position, so we're up into P15. So all things considered, not the worst of starts. We've dropped one position, and it could have been a lot worse. We've got a little bit of damage to the car through Stowe. It was surprisingly a lot of damage, but there we go. Someone runs wide now on the exit of Farm Corner, which kind of brings me into play. So just trying to see how close I can get to this Audi, and then through the loop. I just want to get on the power nice and early, try to get a run on these guys, but as you can see, I don't really get a run. I feel like I should, because I take a later apex, I get on the power a bit earlier than them, but yeah, 33.4 seconds. So I've got 3.4 seconds worth of damage, at least that's how everyone says it in the old ACC lingo. 3 seconds, not a lot. I don't know how much that would be a lap, maybe a 10, if even that. At the very least, I don't think I would usually feel that kind of damage. Like, if you put me into this car and didn't tell me it had damage, I probably wouldn't notice it. But heading a little bit later on into the race, we're now on lap 2. We go wide through farm, as does everyone else. So the track isn't the most grippy. It is at optimal, but the track temp's a little bit down as we get very close to Mr. BMW on a corner exit. But we have gained a position. We're up into a 14th, and we do miss the apex through the loop. I think the loop and Vale were the 2 spots that I was losing a lot of time. I think if I knew how to take both of those properly, maybe I'd gain about half a second over the lap on average. And then you might have seen that screen freeze. That's not an issue with anything. That was during the race. My screen turned off, my monitor turned off, the HDMI cable stopped feeding any information through. So I was blind, so I pulled the car over to the left, went on the brakes, and then I just jammed the HDMI cable in the PC next to me, and that seemingly got it sorted. It came back, so I was very lucky not to be involved in an incident, and then we go wide through Cox Corner, which apparently was track limit. So I'm down in P18 now, which unfortunate incident, and then I decided, you know what, that's somewhere I'll overtake someone. One of my favourite moves that I've ever done, and then we get a tap. So I think the guy on our outside should have known that I was there. He had plenty of time to react, but he still turned into me, so I think that's entirely on him, which is unfortunate. And now coming a little bit later into the race, this is now lap 3. I think this is the guy that we overtook is now trying to battle with me. He's on the outside for this corner. Actually, it's not the same guy, it's a different guy. It's a Porsche in, very conveniently, car 991. So I have to think about going defensive, but he's already pretty much pulling alongside me now on the Wellington straight. So I've kind of got to yield this, but I'm going to leave a bit of space on the inside, but maybe not enough because we do get a touch. Again, like, obviously I'm going to be a little bit subjective rather than objective, but I think I left him enough space. It's quite hard to tell without seeing his POV, so I think that's just, I guess that's just a racing incident, but I will also accept the blame that I should have left more space there, most likely. As heading into Cops Corner, that time I think I did leave enough space. That time I'm pretty sure I left enough space for the Lamborghini, but he kind of Lewis Hamilton me, just not as bad as what Lewis did to Max though. So that's unfortunate, and actually from that I got a fair bit of damage, so I think I'm at about 8 seconds worth of damage, but weirdly enough those 8 seconds worth of damage felt really bad. It felt like 15 seconds, so you can see it's on 30 seconds, so I just have to put the suspension and bodywork back on, and now you can see it's 9 seconds of damage. As a result, I wasn't paying attention, so Mr. BMW got up my inside. I didn't end up defending from it, and we're down now to P20. So it's quite unfortunate, and I almost run into the back of number 4 as well, but I managed to get the car slowed down enough and avoid the incident. Now we've got a Ferrari behind us who's having a little think about Cops Corner, but smartly decides against it, and then he decides to tap my rear. And I think that also just goes to show as well, like, the amount of damage I had, because this is someone that I should be a fair bit quicker than, and he was able to hit my rear end through Cops. I just had no front end, it felt like, and I mean, you can see how hesitant I'm being through Maggots and Beckers. My fastest time, you can see in the top left, is a 201.3. When I was practicing, I was doing low 59s rather consistently, actually. But at the very least, I would never be in the 2 minutes. So I'm losing at least 1.5 seconds a lap. I have to go down into 4th through Farm Corner. And now I've got someone on my rear end. And yeah, I'm just trying to defend. So down into village, nice and defensive. The same here as well, into the loop, just holding it tight so I can't get sent. And yeah, I'm just losing so much time to the guys ahead, and I should be at least 1.5 seconds a lap quicker, at the very least. So I was just driving, waiting for the pit window to open. We've got someone on our inside. This time we outbrake ourselves slightly, so not able to hold it side by side, and we do end up losing to the position to the number 16 Ferrari. So yeah, I mean, that happened, and then the Lamborghini who overtook it before had a mistake. I mean, I just don't know what to say. It was just really annoying. Then the pit window opens, so I was really happy because this meant I could pit, and it meant all my worries were coming to a close. I mean, you can see me hitting those inside curbs. I just don't know when I should be braking, and then the Lamborghini decides, you know what, let me poke my nose up the inside of the loop. As far as I'm concerned, that's entirely his fault. I know some people will say, yeah, but he showed up on your radar, but when you're racing, you don't base things on a radar. You base things on, you know, what you see around you. And he wasn't alongside me in the braking zone. He wasn't, you know, halfway alongside in the braking zone. He was completely behind me in the braking zone. He dived, and he didn't get alongside by the apex. So yeah, if he did get alongside by the apex, I would have avoided it. There wouldn't have been an incident, but really stupid move from him. And then coming into the pits, the guy in front doesn't know how to slow down, so we just go around him. So actually, let me know in the comments, which move do you think was better? The one overtaking this McLaren into the pit lane, or the one overtaking, I think the same McLaren actually, through Maggots and Beckett's? Because I can't quite tell what is my favourite move. It's one of those two, but yeah. We bring the car to a stop in the pit lane, not quite on the mark, so the car gets shifted a bit, which costs us a little bit of time. But we've got 11 seconds of damage after the other incident through the loop, and we are released from the pit lane. And there's the McLaren that we overtook coming into the pit, so he's gained a bit of time on us, and we drop right down the order, practically dead last if it wasn't for that one person who's already in the pits, because we are the first drivers into the pit lane. So yeah, this race so far has not been pleasant. I was really mad. I was driving terribly towards the end of that first stint because things were just crazy. And now you can see that I'm driving terribly now because I'm actually not used to how much grip a car should have, so I'm still driving as if I have had damage, which is why I'm turning in too early, because I'm expecting there not to be any grip, and all of a sudden the car has grip now. So yeah, this outlap was really bad. Then I get caught up by some of the leaders coming to lap me, so this is 5th and 6th. So 5th goes through, and then I go to turn in, and 6th decides, you know what, I can follow through, and he hits me. The rules of this racing series are very simple. The car that's being lapped does not need to move out of the way unless they've been in the way for a lap. It is on the overtaking car, the lapping car, to overtake normally. So I'm supposed to stay on my line, and now you can see bottom left corner, I have 5.087 seconds worth of damage, which I was just thinking, are you serious? Like, I was thinking of just letting them through, but I thought, no, I'm going to follow the rules, which is just stick to my line. It's their job to overtake me cleanly. And I just thought, you know, I just made my pit stop. I just, you know, got rid of the damages, and now I've got 5 more seconds of damage as heading into this corner, I absolutely bottled it. But you can see that I was keeping up for the last 3 minutes with the leaders, right? Or whoever was 5th. So without damage, I had decent race pace, enough to keep up with the leaders on old tyres. So I think realistically I'm about a second a lap off the pace, but yeah, it's how it goes. A few more laps later, we're catching up to Corrative, very close actually to the rear end of the McLaren. He's got the inside, so I look for the old switchback, I let him go wide, I switch back, quite lucky not to clip his rear end, but we managed to judge the move actually really well, so I'm actually quite proud of that move. Fairly textbook switchback, but it's quite difficult to get switchbacks in these cars, I feel. A few more laps later, we pulled 3 seconds to Corrative behind. We've caught up to Coleman a little bit too late on the brakes, and we almost run into the back of Coleman, so we lose a whole bunch of time. We were 8 tenths behind, or 6 tenths behind, coming into into Village Corner, and we end up dropping a few tenths, so that was a bit unfortunate. But then we keep on catching up to Coleman, who runs wide through Stowe. We get a decent run. We could have carried more speed, but I wasn't sure how slow he was going to be on exit. So now we're on the outside heading into Vale. I misjudge it. I clipped the sausage curb, and that unsettles the car. That cost me a bit of time, but we are now in the hunt for position. You can see my good friend Sandro Van Sant is in P17. I really wanted to beat him. I was catching him up as well by about half a second a lap, but not enough laps in this race, and I've got this guy in front of me, and I've got some damage on the car, which is probably costing me some time. I look to the outside then, heading into Village. I want to get the switch back. I do get a decent run, but again, we're on the outside, so I'm going to look for the switch back through the loop. I get on the power, I thought relatively early, but still, I barely get the run relative to Coleman in front. So Coleman's going to go defensive now, heading into Brooklands, and I've already experienced how little grip there is on the outside into this corner, so I decide I'm not going to try to hold it around the outside. What I'm going to do is get as close to the McLaren as possible, and then look for the switchback coming out of Lafayette. So you kind of V off the corner. It means that you can get a better run. We do get a better run initially, but then it just seems like we don't have the grunt really to close in. So we're just going to poke our nose into Cops. I was never going to send it into Cops because that would be stupid. So what I did was just say, hey, look, my nose is here. Are you scared? I'm just trying to put him off. I end up having to back off on corner exit so I don't tap his rear end. And then going through Maggots, I do the same move again up the inside. But this time, Coleman is very good to kind of just keep it pinned around the outside. Again, I could have got him on corner exit, but I had to lift off so I didn't tap his rear end. Which was very frustrating, but I'm kind of alongside, so I just put my car up the inside, and Coleman isn't sure if he can close the door or not, which means that the door stays open for me. He turns in quite aggressively into Stowe, but we somehow managed to avoid contact, and that is us up into P19, which I'll take. And then heading down into Vale, he rear ends me, which annoyed me very much. But yeah, it's how it goes. When you consider all the issues I had, as now we are on the final lap of the race, we had, 11 seconds worth of damage, 6 seconds when the guy hit us in through the loop. I was losing at least 1 second, maybe 1.5 seconds a lap in the first stint. I was probably losing half a second in the second stint from the incident with the leader who was lapping me. So I should have easily been, at least 20 seconds further up the road, maybe towards 30. So I think a top 16 was doable, maybe a top 15, but I know I've got decent pace, and I know that I can get a lot quicker in these cars, so I'm quite excited for the rest of the season. But yeah, this was our first round. We took P19, which, considering when we pitted at the end of our first stint, we were in like P21 or something like that. We made a decent recovery, so yeah, we'll take that. And then we've got Sandro in front of us, who he decides he wants to have some fun with me, and decides to yeet me into the barriers. Thank you for that, Sandro. Thank you for ruining my safety rating. But we'll be back next time for the second round of this championship, which will actually be at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. So yeah, see you guys all next time. Goodbye, and assalamu alaikum.